What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of you for Rurouni Kenshin. This is episode 46, and with me, as always, I have Blue Spay.
Yeah. So now we're pretty much at the aftermath of that whole Great Kyoto fire, but I wouldn't really say it wasn't. I wouldn't say it was really great and all that stuff. It's just
No,
some fires like came up, and then many of the townspeople end up containing that fire by preventing just pretty much preventing it from spreading any further. And we
well,
you know,
I mean, it is funny because there actually was a fire. Because this is one thing I will give the remake over the original is that there was a fire that happened. The original, there was no fire that happened. So, I mean, they called it the Great Kyoto Fire, but there was no Great Kyoto Fire in the original series. Here, at least, there was a fire, even though it wasn't really like a massive inferno or anything like that.
I mean, outside of dozens of police officers getting killed by the 10 swords, none of of the people, none of the citizens living there sustained any serious casualties. Outside, of course, maybe some some several degree burns here and there, but they managed. I mean, with the help of Megami, they were actually able to recover.
Well, okay, so we do hear later from one of the police officers that there were I think over 40 or 44 police officers that were killed in the skirmish they had with some of the 10 swords.
Yeah.
And some of the I guess Shishio's foot soldiers.
Yeah, and I think speaking of his foot soldiers, we remember that one scene which two of the foot soldiers, well, actually one of the foot soldiers wanted to take his friend that he accidentally ended up stabbing, taking him to Megami's clinic to help him recover, but he unfortunately ends up passing away from his injuries soon afterwards.
Yeah, and we see that the old man, I guess, is still alive, and also of course the boy is there. But yeah, I mean, I like I said before, I like that they're giving Megami something to do this time. It makes sense that she would go there and I guess set up a temporary clinic and help people. It's of course much better than how they handled it in the original series, where she just was not there at all.
Yeah, I mean, they pretty much had her work to the bone, throughout the entire night, just helping these people, until Kenshin and the others all end up reuniting at the same place. Which is of course it's a nice reunion with all our characters back together. But of course they end up discussing, pretty much everything that has happened, over the course of the season. And then of course,
well,
what was it?
And specifically, of course, they mention how what was it? Anji saves Misao from being killed by Usui. And I don't really. This is one thing I didn't like that they did, that they talk about how maybe Anji is different from the other 10 swords, and maybe there's still some hope for him. I don't like that they already are going into that. I'm not trying to spoil too much, but I preferred how it was in the original, where you weren't really sure if Anji could be reformed, or if he was still too far gone. I don't like that they've already brought that up to where he's, because in the mind of the viewer they're like, oh well, Anji, maybe he's gonna be okay. So it feels like they're almost kind of spoiling what's gonna end up happening with him. I just didn't really like that change. I thought it was unnecessary. They just shouldn't really have even brought it up, honestly.
Yeah.
And then Sano is talking about and it's already pretty much outright telling you, yeah, they're going to fight, because Sano is talking about he's going to see with his own fists, I guess, that if Anji is I guess beyond redemption or not, or something. Of course, that is what happens, but I just wish they didn't bring it up at all. Instead, they just would have shown it instead of talking about it. But yeah, and there's, of course, Kenshin and the others, Kenshin and Kaoru reunited, like you said. They talk about what happened, and that specifically, and of course, Kenshin also brings up that he had a brief fight with Aoshi, and they ask, of course they ask if how that, or I guess what happened, and of course he says that Aoshi did end up getting away,
Yeah.
which relieves Misao because she thinks, is afraid that Aoshi would end up getting killed. But then at the same time, she was talking earlier about how, she said something about like how they, Aoshi is just, he needs to be, something needs to be done about him, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's funny to me because later on, that same subject gets brought up, and she's like, "Oh no, like I hope they don't do anything to Aoshi." But maybe in the back of her mind, she's just like, even though she says like, "Yeah, something needs to be done about Aoshi," she, of course, as we know, and it makes sense, she doesn't really want to, do anything to him, or which would of course end up killing him or something.
Yeah.
She doesn't want to do that.
Yeah, and then of course this gets brought up again once they find out that the old man Okina ends up recovering from his injuries.
Yeah, I like how and of course we also see Megami again, and we see how like worn out she is by having helped everybody. And she sees Kenshin. I like that they, I mean, it was obvious in the original series she of course has feelings for Kenshin, but they kind of make it, I guess, somewhat more obvious in the remake that she has feelings for Kenshin.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, nothing's ever going to come of that. But,
No. But yeah, so once Okina regains consciousness, they end up talking about what happened during the confrontation between Kenshin and Aoshi. And of course, Okina makes he kind of make a request for Kenshin, which obviously we know the answer to this. He wants Okina to, he wants Kenshin to kill Aoshi, which obviously for the viewer, like we all know Kenshin's not willing to do that by any means necessary, and Kenshin gives his argument as to why he doesn't feel like it's necessary to kill Aoshi is because he realizes that the wounds that Okina received from Aoshi didn't, like, apparently it doesn't look like they were life threatening in a way, and he senses that that Aoshi has like some amount of good in him, which, I mean, it's a very interesting way to put it. I mean, considering that the amount that injury would have killed a normal person in a way. So of course, like Kenshin, like I said, like he's not gonna kill Kenshin, but he's not gonna kill Aoshi, but Kenshin's gonna I guess he's gonna do something to actually bring Aoshi back to his senses, which of course relieves Misao, and then like she ends up crying in relief, which surprises everyone around her.
Another thing that happens too, like throughout the episode, is we see that some of the characters get sent these duel requests, which I thought was weird. Because if we remember, like the Shishio had asked Kenshin if he would agree to, duel them later or show up, I guess, at their headquarters and fight them. So I was wondering like why it was necessary for them to add that they were sent like requests to duel.
Yeah. I think
I don't know.
We find out by the end of the episode, like, I don't really think he really admitted it, but I think Hoji, like, I think
it was Hoji that sent it out.
Yeah, I think it kind of surprised Shishio in a way, for like, and why, like, all these letters of like challenges to a duel are being sent to like pretty much everyone of like not only just Kenshin, but like Saito and Sanosuke as well. And obviously, I think it's just part of like Hoji's strategy of like how they want to end up beating Kenshin and his friends. But yeah, that's pretty much where we ended off from there.
Yeah. I mean, how many more episodes do we have of this core? By the way,
I think we only have like 2 more episodes this season.
That's because I mean, I thought I knew where they might end it, but where they are now, like I'm really scratching my head because they would definitely have to pad this out if they're ending it where I think they are.
Yeah.
If they're not, then I feel like it's even more weird. Like, cause I don't know. Like, I feel like after that there wouldn't really be a place that makes sense for them to end it. unless they're going to end it right before, I guess, a particular fight that's going to happen, which would be a really just a weird place to end things. It just would make much more sense if they end it like, not much of a spoiler, like, right before Kenshin and the others are going to go to the hideout.
Yeah,
Um,
it's like at least another core of material, but from what I can
yeah,
tell, we don't know any other episodes that are airing for the next season or something, and they haven't made any
yeah.
announcement or as of yet.
Well,
And
I mean, I could tell you, like, if they're going to continue the series, like, yeah, there's definitely going to be another season. And I would imagine, like, the first core, at least, of that other season is going to be the remainder of the Kyoto arc.
yeah, and of course there's soon there's another story arc that happens after Kyoto as well. But
Yeah.
it's just like I remember in the original series, like like I said, there's at least maybe almost a dozen episodes worth of material left that concludes the Kyoto arc.
And that's also not counting the fact that they're probably, they're most likely going to add some new stuff too,
Mhm.
to probably pad it out even more.
Yeah, most likely, especially like keep they like lately they've been showing off a lot of these like minor side characters that we've never seen before, that keep getting the spotlight. So it's yeah. I mean, we'll have to see where it goes from there, but it seems like we're gonna end it off, inconclusively, I guess, by the end of season 2.
Yeah, and I mean, what they're going to have in the next season is mostly going to be like, I wouldn't say nonstop, but it's going to be mostly fight scenes.
Yeah.
For the rest of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was a mostly decent episode. I wasn't like, I was a little bit concerned as to how they were going to handle this one scene where Okina asked Kenshin to take out Aoshi, because I thought it was done pretty well in the original series, but I think they did a fairly decent job with it.
Mhm.
I didn't really have any complaints in that regard. I do question some of the changes though, because I think that, like I said, I think some of them are unnecessary. Specifically the stuff with Anji, I don't feel like I feel like it's just way too obvious, like with, the amount of, I guess, foreshadowing they're doing with Anji.
Yeah.
I wish they wouldn't have done that. I mean, like I said, I feel like it's unnecessary. The only part of it I liked was that Anji's reaction to seeing like that building on fire. I like that, but then everything else I think is not necessary. And it's just like it's way too obvious like what's going to happen with him.
Mhm.
But yeah, other than that, I thought it was mostly decent. I'm just wondering, like I said, like what they're going to do to sort of, how they're going to handle the next 2 episodes, knowing like what's going to happen with the in the plot. But yeah, I don't really have anything else to say about the episode though. I don't know if you have anything else to say about it.
Yeah, I could assume that the next 2 episodes are mostly just going to be like more of a hype or transition episodes before season 3 starts.
Yeah.
Whenever like what I mean, we don't have an actual release date for season 3, or maybe they might just throw in another core on us out of nowhere by next month. I mean,
I highly doubt it, considering this season's already like 20 plus episodes long. So I mean, I kind of doubt it.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, we'll see where it goes, but I'm not expecting much else in terms of like where the plot's going for before the season's over.
Yeah. Yeah, guys. But that all being said, until next time, we will see you all later.